Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Zero Hour. You know, in olden times in England, people who worked for the Lord had to wear the livery or the uniform of that Lord. They had to show that they were in his service and in his thrall and were subjugated to his every whim. That included coachmen, it included butlers, it included people who protected him as guards. It even included when lords and ladies would hire famous writers or poets or musicians, they too would have to wear the uniform, the livery of the Lord. Now, it strikes me in this year of our Lord 2015, if you use that, Anno Domini 2015, that the Republicans should be wearing the livery of the lords and ladies of the United States economy, the oligarchs, the malefactors of great wealth, as they were once called, because this week they made it official by voting to repeal the estate tax. It's time to start handing out livery uniforms on the floor of the United States Senate and, or rather, the floor of the House for today's Republicans. Let's talk about the estate tax a little bit. The House voted Thursday to repeal the estate tax, which was described as a longtime priority of Republicans. Now, the vote was 240 to 179, largely on partisan lines, meaning that 7 Democrats voted to repeal the estate tax. We can give them uniforms too. And 3 Republicans voted against it. The White House has threatened to veto this measure, and it does not appear to have the 50 votes, or rather 60 votes necessary to break a Democratic filibuster and get through the Senate. However, they pushed it through anyway because they actually have the deluded idea that this will make them popular. Now, it does make them popular with those who pay the bills for their campaigns, those who write the checks for their future employment once they leave politics. But they actually said, the House Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, actually said this week that they hadn't voted on this estate tax for a decade, which meant that, quote, the vast majority of our members in the Republican conference have never had the opportunity to stand up for small businesses who are threatened by the death tax every day. Yeah, I love it when they call it the death tax because, of course, there is no tax on death. If you die tomorrow, nobody will tax your death. Now, if somebody, as a result of your death, gets more than $5 million or so, if you're an individual, or $10 million or so, if it's coming from a couple, then yeah, they will have to pay something, but that's a tax on money they get. It's not a tax on your death. Now, Republicans also argue that it's not fair to tax inheritance because that money's been taxed as they've gone along and earned it. Now, there are 2 problems with that argument. Number one, all money is taxed as new people earn it. For example, my boss got taxed when he made money. When he pays me, I get taxed. That's how it works. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just common sense. But somehow they make this argument. Secondly, a lot of the money, as we get into refuting this whole nutty estate tax thing, a lot of this money actually has never been taxed. So let's talk about this. Now, I believe Kevin Brady, it was, another Republican member of the House, said, quote, can you imagine working your whole life to build up a family-owned business or a farm, and then upon your death, Uncle Sam swoops in. By the way, just parenthetically, I didn't know that Uncle Sam swooped. But anyway, Uncle Sam swoops in and takes nearly half of what you spent a lifetime building up for your children and grandchildren. Well, first of all, he doesn't take a cent, again, until it's $5 or $10 million. For that to be nearly half, you would have to be the Walton family. So let's talk about the estate tax and the liveried Republicans, the lily-liveried Republicans who voted for it this week. Roughly 2 out of every 1,000 estates is subject to any of the estate tax. Now, we're not talking about 40% or 50%. We're talking about a single penny of the estate tax is only taken out of 2 out of every 1,000 estates. So, again, only 20 businesses, and speaking to Representative Brady's points, how many family businesses and farms were subject to this tax in 2014? 20. Only 20 businesses and farms were subject to the estate tax last year, but nevertheless, they feel this is a compelling issue for the ordinary people of America. Now, the Joint Committee on Taxation projects that the estate tax will hit 5,400 estates in 2015, or roughly 0.2% of the 2.6 million deaths expected in the U.S. this year. But under current law, individuals with estates of under 5.43 million or couples with 10.86 million estates or below are exempt from paying the tax. Now, they pay a minimum rate of 40% on the amount of assets above those levels. How does this work out in real life? Does Uncle Sam swoop in with his Uncle Sam wings and take half of what you have? No. Taxable estates who are taxed, and remember, that is only something like 2 in 1,000, those who are taxed generally pay less than 1/6 of their total value, not half. 1/6. So as we said, only a handful of small family farms and businesses are affected by it. Now, on the other hand, the largest estates in the world, or in the country rather, consist mostly of unrealized capital gains. That's a way to pass the money down from one investment to another without ever paying taxes on it, because you say you've never realized it, or you've never, for lack of a better term, cashed it out. Now it goes to your heirs when you die, and no tax has ever been paid on it. Under this law, no tax would ever be paid on it. This is a giveaway to the wealthiest among us that is craven and lowly. How much will it cost the American people to serve the lords and masters of the Republican Party this way? About $246 billion over 10 years. That's a lot of change to give the wealthy just to get a pretty uniform, my Republican friends. I'm Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.